caught, touchdown, it's caught, Hardman caught the ball, the Chiefs have won, the Chiefs have won, the Chiefs are back-to-back Super Bowl champions. It is a dynasty. The Chiefs have won Super Bowl 58, 25.
What is going on, Chiefs Kingdom? Welcome back to a very, very special episode of The Kingdom Says. I am your usual host, as always, Garrett Williams, and I have got the full crew on board today on this very, very special Victory Monday. Kyle Henning in the top right of the screen. How are we doing tonight, Kyle?
Yeah, about as well as you can be doing.
Yep.
Dressed for the occasion, just like the boys did this weekend. Ready to. There's so many things to discuss, y'all. We're gonna have so much stuff for you for the next, I don't know, 2 weeks, probably week, 2 weeks, and then we just get to jump into draft season because this team doesn't give us an off season ever at all, ever. So let's keep going.
Yeah, speaking of draft season, join us, Arrowhead Tom at the bottom of the screen. How we doing tonight, Tom?
I muted myself to try to be,
Dang, look at him.
so that I missed the button when I went to unclick it. And now
We're being professional while I'm letting my hair
yeah,
down.
really professional. And then my light kicked on, and now I'm adjusting it so I'm not glowing like I'm radioactive. Although you may just mistake that for how excited I am for the fact that the Chiefs have once again, and this still sounds weird every time I say it, won the Super Bowl and are back-to-back Super Bowl champions and officially a dynasty.
It is official. It's as about as official as you can possibly get. The Chiefs are a dynasty,
and they're in the top of dynasties of all time already too in the comparables, and we'll get into that much later in this week, I'm sure.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's it's still kind of crazy. It barely even set in that the Chiefs have won yet another Super Bowl, the third in the Patrick Mahomes era, back to back, the first time since 2004-2005 Patriots. Yeah, it is crazy, and what a freaking game for it to happen in. I mean, yeah,
overtime, baby.
Yeah, I mean, about as long of a game as you can possibly get, and came down to the wire. And the Chiefs came home with another Lomardi Trophy. It's crazy. So we're gonna talk about it today. We are going to get into this. We're gonna try to keep this mostly about the game itself. There's a lot of outside talk, and there's a lot of historical context and legacy context to a lot of this stuff. And we have a full off season ahead of us to really dive into that stuff more. We're here to talk about what was probably one of the craziest Super Bowls, definitely the craziest Super Bowl, I think, so far in the Mahomes era.
A little stressful.
It was a little stressful for sure. It was also kind of not stressful though, in a really weird way. I'm not gonna lie when I said there was a weird level of calm. I think we all kind of shared it going through the game. I mean, the blood level was raising, especially near the end of the fourth quarter and overtime. But there was just
that was my blood pressure went up, was overtime. I was good until overtime, and then
I can tell you pretty much when mine peaked. It was a fourth quarter, 2-minute warning play. I'm sure we'll talk about it, but when McDuffie hit that perfect blitz, but right before that, I was like, oh man, here it is. They're going to get the conversion and run the clock out, and it's going to be game over in the worst possible way. We're just going to watch and kneel it out.
Yeah, I think that final drive by the Niners in regulation was when my blood pressure really started to rise. That's when it kind of started to set in a little bit, and then that 3rd and 4, we'll talk about it, was a big game changer. There was so many turning points and just big plays, game-changing plays throughout the whole game. But yeah, there was just a weird level of calm, I think. And I tweeted out at halftime that I felt absolutely horrible about the game, which historically means that we're probably going to come back and do it. I mean, pretty much every time I can remember where I felt absolutely horrible about a game at halftime like that, the Chiefs find a way to do it in the end. So that kind of gave me a little bit of resolve right there. That kind of made me feel a little bit better about it. But yeah,
Well,
they didn't make it easy. They did not make it easy on us.
He said,
So
I'll try to, get out ahead a little bit faster next time, guys, or whatever. He said, he made a comment about how they've been down 10 points in the last the last couple of Super Bowls.
Yeah.
I think all of them. Isn't he 3-1 in Super Bowls when he's been down 10, and he's been down 10 in literally all of them?
Yep. Yeah, he's the first quarterback to ever come back from
because Brady's 2-1.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the league is like 6-48 or whatever it was.
Mahomes is like 9-2. 9-2 in the playoffs when he's down by 10, and everybody else like they're not even.
Tom's 10-11.
This is kind of what they do, Chiefs fans are
10-11.
definitely, they're definitely familiar to this feeling of being down but not out. You're never out when you have Patrick Mahomes. That should be very clear at this point that you are absolutely never out when you have 15 as your quarterback.
We talk about the blood pressure. We're talking about the blood pressure, and the reason, and we're going to go through this whole game, but the reason that I was pretty much calm until the overtime, even with you guys talking about the third down play, which we'll get to late in the fourth, I was still relatively calm through that because the game felt like all year. It just was condensed down into one game.
Yeah.
It really was just a straight run through of, okay, we started out all right a little bit. There were some bumpy parts. It was shaky. Then there was some questions. It was weird. There was drops after good plays. It was the good thing, and then the shoot yourself in the foot thing.
Yeah.
Do all that, and you keep going, and then it just kind of felt like it just, as we got through the game, it just did the whole thing where everything kind of figured itself out, and everything started to work, and then we got what we expected from the guy we expect to get it from. Guys, and there's going to be lots of guys to talk about.
Well, it's a couple guys we didn't expect to get it from. Probably,
there's a lot of guys that solidified that they are a guy and not just a guy in this game.
Yeah, that is well said for sure.
Again, that's the perfect example. There were weird things that happened, and a lot of things that Mahomes had to overcome. I remember not to dunk on him because we've never doubted him, and he's had a tremendous playoffs. But for a moment, MVS was possessed by the spirit of DeMarcus Robinson's number 11, and ran backwards by 12 yards after what should have been an 8-yard game turned into a 4-yard loss, and it was one of the most befuddling things. And had that game result been different, had that game
morale was real low after that one. I'll say that.
Had he just fallen down on the initial hit, he would have been so much better off. Just fall down.
But I'm saying, you think about how that would be viewed had Pat not done what he did.
Had not everything continued. And your apology treat would have been premature, I'm sure, in some of your guys' eyes.
Yeah, that's true. It would have been very premature. It was a wild ride. I would say that last drive when the Chiefs are going down in overtime, the most stressful Chiefs drive I've ever watched in my life, hands down, has to be.
Oddly, I was more calm during that part than the other portions of overtime, but I get it.
To me, that was the most stressful. The 4th and 1 where we might lose the Super Bowl because we can't get 1 yard.
I knew what play they were running. I knew what play they were running before they ran it. That's why I wasn't worried, because I knew what was coming.
Just the absolute thought of losing the Super Bowl by not getting 1 yard.
Oh, I know. But when they lined up, as soon as you're 100% right, because my first thought when I saw them end up in 4th and 1 was not 1 yard. And then my second thought when I saw the lineup when I saw the formation, though, I immediately went, never mind. As soon as I saw the formation, I went, never mind.
I knew Pat was going to take it.
I knew what was coming.
I knew Pat was not going to let anybody but himself take it on that. I knew.
I can't believe that I'm sorry, I almost called him the wrong brother, that Nick Bosa didn't know it, because I knew it, and you knew it, and I know there are many Chiefs fans that knew that ball was not leaving his control if he had the option.
There was that. There was the MVS backwards, the whole thing. I mean, there was another third and short we had that was tough.
Overcome a lot of shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah. It was,
let's go through it in some kind of order here.
We'll start from the beginning, which the very beginning, I gotta say the scene of Chris Jones standing there during the national anthem, and just the shot of his face, and then he blinks once, and the tears go down his. Oh my God, that got me a little bit. I will say that was a way to start. That I was like, okay, it's going to be a different game today.
When
obviously.
Chris is crying, Chris is there to play.
When you see tears out of Chris, you know it's going to be a day. So yeah, we started out
I promise.
the 49ers lost the toss, which was pretty good. Tails betters are in shambles right now. It was heads. Big sad there. So the Niners go down that first drive. They fumble, which was a crazy start to the game. Christian McCaffrey, of all people, fumbles.
Doesn't happen often.
Yeah, that's already where you see
massive punch out by Leo Chenal.
Yeah, the start of an absolutely phenomenal game by Leo Chenal. So that really set the tone of the game.
We're both in on that because I think Pinot got him first and was holding him up, and Chenal got the punch.
Yeah, it was a little combo by the two. Both of those, I mean, what we're going to talk about, both those two had a freaking night. But that first drive really got the blood flowing, the energy high. Didn't quite go well after that. It was definitely just a slow start, Tom. What do you think of the first quarter? I mean, I don't even think there was a score in the first quarter, right?
Yeah, no, the first quarter was pretty score. I mean, it was scoreless, and I think getting that fumble was good because they were marching. I mean, they had pretty much at that point, all their scripted plays were coming up, green for them.
They were running the ball well.
Yeah, they were running the ball well. And
Chris McCaffrey, Offensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, and one of the things is Kyle Shanahan is a good coach. It is really easy to get him. And there have been times, especially when Andy, was a coach younger. This was a huge critique of him. Was clock management, running the ball, staying committed to the run. We still see problems with it from time to time.
We had problems with it. We'll get to it in the second half.
Yeah. So but to Kyle's credit, like it's or to the point about Kyle Shanahan, like it is. It was almost like positive to kind of give him that reason to doubt running the ball a little bit more and try to get him to want to go back to that tendency. They did a good job of running the ball, I think, more than what he has historically done. And it was a heck of a matchup overall. But yeah, I think that fumble, getting out of that drive without the 49ers putting up points was pretty huge.
That was pretty big.
Yeah, that was a very huge part at the beginning of that. Because that's the start to the game. They looked like they were walking, and that fumble was at, I believe, Kansas City. Yeah,
it was.
That was at R27. So
yeah.
And then the rest of that first half or that first quarter goes punt. I don't think the field goal took place until. No, I guess the field goal was
second
with
quarter.
26 seconds left in the first quarter. I believe is when the field goal went through for them. So. They play a stalled out field position game. The first punt by Tommy was a little short. It was way high, but they didn't get any return out of it. So it was a 43-yard punt still. Great. Then they continue, and then, Justin Watson makes a play.
Mm-hmm.
Makes a catch, and then turns around and has a ball in frame and drops it on the next big play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
there's a couple opportunities.
They had to stroke on it though. Give him a little bit of credit. Yes, he should have caught it. Man, Pat rifled that ball in there.
I know.
Yeah.
The rule is if it hits you in hands in your frame, you must catch the ball. This is the NFL, and these guys should be able to do that.
True.
Now, if you got to reach and do something crazy behind, I get that, or dive like Rasheed did later in the game.
I think Romo was trying to say something. Oh, he's a little behind him. I'm like, yeah, but it was a 100% catchable ball. And like you said, it had some heat on it, but it's the Super Bowl, buddy. This is
now
we got to say
we sound like we're killing Justin Watson, right? Well, that's because at the portions throughout the portions of the start of this year, this wide receiver core got killed for drops. We saw that at the beginning of this game. There was more, and it wasn't just Justin Watson that dropped the ball. There was another drop or two in this game as well. And you saw some of the things in that first quarter and first half, all the way up until basically the last drive of the first half, and even that had a little bit of a what was that moment. They didn't execute well on offense, which we've seen throughout the year.
Definitely a couple of big missed opportunities too. I mean, they had that big play to Mecole Hardman down the field, which just Pat absolutely drops back and launches that thing and drops it in a bucket. I mean, I'm surprised that play hasn't been talked about more. Probably because of what happens after that. But
well, the play immediately following is Isaiah Pacheco having an unfortunate fumble because Lenore punches it out through Noah Gray's block.
Yeah, exactly. The whole thing is like Noah Gray out there instead of Kelsey, which prompted Kelsey to go give Coach Reed a little love tap. Gave him a little. He
scared
bump.
him more than he gave him even the bump, and I think Andy even said
that.
It
really just caught him.
He didn't even know he was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is like, even like as it happened, I just remember watching it with some friends and they're like, oh man, he's so. I said no. I said Travis and Coach Reed have a phenomenal relationship.
I didn't see it.
I promise you, he's not over there trying to fight Andy Reid during the Super Bowl.
No. I didn't see it first, and I got messages about it, and I was like, what are y'all talking about? So I had to go pull it up, and I'm like, oh, no. That's fine being competitive. That's fine.
Yeah.
Does it look bad because it kind of looked like he bumped him? I still haven't seen a full angle on whether or not he actually bumped him or whether or not Andy was just off guard and off balance a little and scared him. I still haven't been able to see it. If he bumped him too much, anything before that, I don't care. That's normal.
No, Andy said in the press game or in the post game conference, he's like, that's just a guy wanting to play. He goes, and I love it. He goes, it makes me feel young again. He goes, he can bump me 10 yards back across the field if that's what it takes. Like he's like, I want that kind of passion. And
that would also not be the only sideline confrontation on our sideline later in this game. So
but you know what? That's
competitive sideline discussion, I should say, not confrontation. Competitive sideline discussion.
Well, like I said, that there's a level of trust and vulnerability you have to be like. There's a dynamic where you have those meltdowns, and it could be an Antonio Brown type of situation where you're taking off your shirt and walking off the field and all that stuff.
The helmet throw.
But at the same time, it's the all-time greats. How many times have we seen? I mean, we've seen Tom Brady destroy tablets, and Peyton Manning. There's a legendary clip of him yelling at his center.
Patrick went nuts. You've seen Patrick go crazy.
Yeah.
Patrick hasn't done it often, but Patrick's gone nuts once, and now everybody thinks that's a problem somehow.
And it's not those guys turning on each other at all. It's it really is a rally call.
Competitors.
That was just he's ready. He wanted the ball more. He had one catch for 1 yard in the first half.
Yeah.
They just pulled him off the field, and then we turned the ball over. He thought he was getting the ball on the ball that went to McColl to begin with because he's like, hey, I'm open, but where the f is that going? Where is that to?
I mean, there's a beautiful throw to McColl, so he can't be mad about that.
Also, McColl tracks it absolutely perfectly, and I believe that was Charvarius Ward that didn't know where the ball was that landed in his hands. Or was that Brown?
Both of the defenders didn't know, they didn't know where the ball was. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. He had two guys on him, and neither one of them knew where the ball was.
The way McColl ran the route is almost like he gave it up on the route, but then like he finished at the last second, and just the ball was right there.
Well, hold on, because this is I don't know if you guys this was like a full circle moment for McColl, because this goes back to his rookie year and some of those deep shots.
I think.
Yeah, some of those deep shots that they were trying to take with him, and we used to talk about how Mahomes would tell him, "Keep running." Like, I'll get you the ball. Keep running. Right. And that's part of why the defense – I got goosebumps talking about it. Like, part of the reason why the defense fell behind is because they thought, okay, he's done. But McColl kept running. And Mahomes dropped it. We're talking like a moonshot.
One of the craziest
into the basket perfectly.
You couldn't have walked down there and handed him that ball better.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, it was a perfect spot, perfect ball placement. But – in years past, and McColl's, coming off IR and all this other stuff, but this is, growth in the system, growth with the players. He kept running.
He did. It was really a full circle moment for McColl, and obviously, now we'll talk about McColl a little bit later as well, because that was really a full circle moment for him. But by the end of the first half,
that's one big play he made this game.
Yeah, wink, not. By the end of the first half, we kicked the field goal at the end to make it 10-3. The vibes were definitely a little bit off, I think, on the sideline. The guys,
we got down 10, and then everybody
down 10. It's
exactly where we want them.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we got the field goal at the end of the half. I tweeted it. I know other people have said it. As soon as I saw that they had it, once the Niners did not run out the clock and had to punt the ball at the end of that half, and Patrick had timeouts and time, just go get points. I don't care if it's 7 or 3, because now you get the double up opportunity. And they didn't even get the double up.
Yeah, they're not very good getting the double up, honestly.
They usually are, but that was not a good one. Not this year. And to defend, they weren't good at it this year. And what did they not do in this game? They didn't get the double up because we had a interception. But we'll get
crazy
to that.
interception. Yeah,
Well, I think we're pretty much there offensively. I mean, that was the first half.
Yeah, that was the first half in a nutshell. There wasn't, the defense obviously held them to 10 points. That's very good, and got multiple punts. The defense is never
what
a
they
problem.
did. So we do need to talk a little bit about the first half defense, because some of the ball movement that the 49ers got and some of the things that they worked at, and Tom, I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit when we talk about quotes about Brock, because I think he's got a good one on it. They played more zone in the first half than they did in the second half, which you'll see in the breakdowns. But when they played zone, and especially when they played it behind the blitz, the middle of the field was left somewhat compromised because of the Shanahan scheme.
They did have a couple
some of the run plays that they were able to generate with McCaffrey early opened some things up in their play action game, and they were able to attack. They had some success across the middle of the field early. You have to give the 49ers credit. They played a very good first half, but only being up 7 with all of the things that went wrong for the Chiefs.
Yeah,
which they did go wrong.
And I think
left too much light.
I think Tony Romo said that on the broadcast. He goes, they should be up by, this game should be 14-0, or
17, I think.
17-0.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the identity that this team has had this year is they're going to play complementary ball, and when the time comes, they're going to rise to the occasion more often than not. Even though I think and I'll admit to being guilty of it, we get stuck on the, often than not, we get stuck more on the knots because we expect them to. We expect them to, win those close games. And again, that's not, that's probably a little bit of my own Tuscaloosa fan. I was, reading.
I love
before Andy Reid,
that term rolling finally.
Yeah, before Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City had the worst playoff winning percentage. Is it NFL history?
Oh, it was pretty close. It was
had the worst playoff win percentage all time at .333, so 9 wins and 18 losses. Mm-hmm. After last night, they're now in the top 10 with .533, 24 wins and 21 losses.
Yep.
So
that's pretty good, I'd say. That's pretty
Patrick
good.
and Indy are 15-3 in the playoffs.
Yeah. The fact that Patrick, that we're getting the legacy stuff, it's hard to. We're trying to keep it all in one. Try to keep it without dumping everything all in one episode.
I mean, we can do a little bit of legacy talk and go deeper later, but we'll do that at the end of this because we don't want to do it too much during the middle of the breakdown. So.
Yeah. So. It was that same complimentary football, and I think that there, especially later in the game, there was probably a little bit of a sense of like you can breathe a little bit, especially opening that second half. I mean, throwing that pick sucks, but I think that for Mahomes, that takes off some of that pressure to feel like he has to do it all himself. And the defense showed him like, hey, we got you. Like
twice. Pacheco fumble did not cost them points, nor did the Mahomes interception.
Yeah. Also, I think we should definitely touch on the San Francisco 49ers touchdown in the first half. The little trick play that should have been called a penalty because they had an illegal man downfield. Cannot let that be understated.
Or holding on when they tackled George Karlaftis on that play.
Yeah, or pass interference or something, right? I mean, you can't just. I've noticed that too. It's like, how do you Nick Bolton? I think got absolutely tackled too.
He got picked. He got picked by the offensive lineman that was 3 yards downfield.
Yeah, it's like, how is that not pass interference and George is way downfield?
They had George like this, so
whatever. So that shouldn't have happened, but hey, little tricky, little gimmicky guy. I mean, hey, if that's how they're gonna score, so be it.
That's their only touchdown in the first half. And, And if you're going to pull that out that early, that tells me you think you need it that bad.
Yeah, because it was going pretty poorly.
So I wasn't even necessarily.
Punt.
I saw the ineligible man downfield live. I saw George get tackled live. I saw Nick get picked live. They're all bad missed calls. Largely, thank God, the refs stayed out of this game.
That's true.
And they were largely very good. Now, the NFL can solve all of the spotting problems with the microchip they already have in the football, so I'm not even going to talk about the
There's
spots.
A couple spots that were a little questionable.
Three of not questionable. 3 of them were flat out bad and wrong, and they did not
There were some like really blatant ones. There were a couple of runs where like Pacheco gets like 3-4 yards, and it's like 2nd and 8. It's like, hello, he definitely got like 3 or 4 yards.
The first down marks on Travis Kelce's.
There's a couple questionable ones for sure.
The overtime 4th and 1 that should have never existed that we're going to talk about here,
that should have been like a 4th and half an inch.
Should have been first down.
Yeah, worst case it'd be like a lot closer than that was. They started like a yard and a half out. It's like, hello.
Yeah, he was. If anything, he was a half a yard short, a third of a yard short, not a full yard to a yard and a half. But again. They have microchips and they refuse to use them. Instead, they would rather use old dudes with sticks and old guys running up and down the side that can't keep up with the game to spot the football.
Hey,
so the NFL changes it. It ain't gonna.
As an official future member of Old Guys with Sticks, I would like to dispute your. No, I'm just kidding.
At the NFL level, it's different than at the high school, middle school.
Old guys with sticks. You represent old guys with sticks, Tom?
Yeah, I'm here. Well, as a future member.
Okay.
Okay. I just
that was kind of how the first half wrapped up, and then obviously banger halftime show. We got to talk about the halftime show real quick because Usher killed it. I think Usher killed it.
I can't believe that Usher crashed the Lil Jon and
the Ludacris show.
Ludacris' halftime show. That was pretty cool. That anybody was
hey man,
hey, bringing out the guests always.
I started laughing. That outfit Jermaine Dupri was wearing was hilarious.
Yeah. I would say if you bring out guests like that, especially Alicia Keys, Ludacris, Lil Jon, like that's a hitter, all right. And Usher has a lot of hits. Yeah. He was on the rollerblades.
Luda had the throwback.
Yeah.
Luda had that Too Fast, Too Furious fro on.
That
was pretty crazy. Yeah, but
wait, did you say the throwback or the throwback?
I said the throwback, not a throwback. I said the throwback.
The throwback.
Correct.
Throwback. Yeah. So good halftime show. I think that was. Honestly, watching the halftime show, it kind of elevated my moods a little bit because I was feeling pretty down at halftime, and then watched that, I was like, you know what? Here we go.
I was surprised. I got to give Usher credit. A lot of people don't understand. As somebody who's skated most of my life on roller and on ice,
it up there.
Those are quads, and if y'all don't know, that is not easy, especially on stage and especially doing
45
dance
too. Like he was out there working.
He does that in his Vegas show, so he's practiced it plenty. But that's impressive regardless. If y'all don't understand,
that's a skill. If you have that skill in your repertoire, you break that out as much as possible.
I'd be showing that shit off everywhere also.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think they killed it. It was a very good halftime show. One of the better. There have been a couple good halftime shows recently in the past couple of years, but that was a pretty good one. I was definitely up there.
Solid effort.
Yeah, solid effort. Okay. It was good enough, It wasn't bad. I would say it was definitely not bad.
I enjoyed it. It was a good time.
Yeah. So second half underway. Obviously, like we talked about a little bit, starts with an interception, a little bit of an overthrow. It was a weird play. It was definitely a weird play from Mahomes.
Travis.
Yeah. Well, so there was a thing. Mahomes early on in this game, throughout the first couple quarters, really he was very hesitant to run, and I don't know why, but he was very hesitant to just full breakdown and like scramble, and I kind of get it, but that was kind of one where like he could have just took off, and instead he tried to hang around and then he ended up overthrowing it to Trav. He had that more often than not.
Game on the ground.
Yeah. Well, at the end, he really racked up them yards, but
what I'm saying is what he chose to do in the second half. You're right. He didn't do it in the first half, and if he chose to do that in the first half, he probably has a 100-yard rushing game.
So there's definitely something to him. I think I don't know. I don't think he was scared necessarily. I think he just kind of wanted to.
He was trying to throw the ball more.
Win that way. Yeah, but at the end, he was like, "All right, we're gonna have to start running this thing now by myself. We're gonna make sure we put this in the right man's hands."
Well,
but
they also designed runs for him because
Yeah.
we're
So
gonna get
Lamar
into it.
Jackson play.
We're gonna get into it. They designed runs for Patrick, and when I say
Which
designed,
I promised that they didn't go into the game with that being part of the game plan, but they went, let's bust it out.
They're like, hey,
it's been in the playbook. I know they've had it in the
Oh,
playbook.
it's definitely been in the playbook, but I'm saying I don't think that was a prerogative that they had, like, throughout the week. It was
a break glass in case of emergency.
And I think, and that's obviously a little bit evident of him being a little more hesitant early on. I think they kind of realized they have a very athletic D-line who can maybe catch him a little bit easier than that, so it's maybe not as open of an opportunity. But
I think
that was one of those
where kept in his back pocket, and we'll get into why here in a little bit.
Yeah, but luckily, like we said, after that interception, the defense just holds them to a 3-and-out. Mm-hmm. They get like -1 yard overall on the play. So
that's where Shanahan went to kind of that panicky.
This is the Shanahan
throwing the ball. It was just fucking.
They went 3 straight. I think it's 3 straight drives without Christian McCaffrey getting a carry.
Yeah, they went 3 straight 3-and-outs.
I was like, that's right, make him pass. That's not a dig on Brock Purdy. I think there's very few quarterbacks where you can just go, hey, you know what? These next 3 drives, all you, big guy.
And they also hurt themselves because they took penalties. There was false starts. There was holding penalties.
Yeah. I mean, the Niners' first 3 drives of the second half were 3 3-and-outs for -2 yards total through those 3 drives. Like, so and you mentioned the Shanahan, kind of abandon the run type thing, getting pass heavy. I also think there's a lot of that of the Patrick Mahomes effect, and I think it was talked about a little bit post game of like the more you let Patrick Mahomes go, like he's going to strike you eventually. Like you can't, even if you've held him to 3 points the entire, he's going to strike you eventually. And I think a lot of teams end up getting a little scared, a little gun shy, and really think they have to like start trying to keep up with them, and start just slinging it.
Yes.
Yeah,
he puts pressure on you.
Up points.
He makes you nervous.
The presence of him just, it makes you nervous. It's like, hey, if we keep going, just kick, like he's gonna get us at some point. You have to kind of put the pedal to the metal.
We'll get to overtime, but the decision that they made in overtime happened because Patrick exists. They goofed up their decision making because Patrick exists. Like.
So that's a bad combination when you have the Patrick Mahomes effect and then you have the Shanahan abandoning the run effect.
But part of that was done by Spags, and we got to talk about why. So in the first half, I talked about the zone stuff and how they were playing some more zone and they weren't doing as much in the man coverage. And I'm fairly certain, I think Trent McDuffie talked about it when he was asked about the adjustments they made at halftime and what they kind of did. And he basically said that he told us that he was going to play man and that he trusted us to cover and we were going to blitz and bring pressure. And Tom, they did what to the Niners with their cover 0 and cover 1 percentage?
Well, they did more of that than the Niners had seen all year from any other team by double.
And the most of it was in the second half.
Yeah, and they locked him down. We were talking about that in the pre-show. McDuffie
Spags pressed the spam blitz button as many times as he could physically hit it. And what that did was it pushed Shanahan out of the run game because it's really hard to run the ball when they're bringing 6, 7, and 8 guys at you all the time.
Yeah, well, in some of those plays we saw those blitzes. Even when Purdy was going to go throw, there's 3 or 4 or 5 times where it was the pressure that had the throw off the mark.
Chris Jones
kept them from some pretty critical pressures in some key moments. Really
George Karlaftis
set the pace there. So
Chris Jones just blew up a wide open touchdown basically, and Chris schemed up because he was there.
Took over a football game.
When he didn't have a single sack, he's not good. Sorry.
Yeah,
he was dominant. Chris Jones was dominant. They beat up. Look, George Kittle got mugged by Leo Chenal in the run game. He got destroyed. I love George Kittle. I think George Kittle is great. He did not have a good day. They beat him up in the run game and in the blocking game. He did not get open in the passing game. He had
not a day he's going to want to remember.
He had 2 catches for 4 yards. And on multiple plays, Leo Chenal took him and Kyle Juszczyk and occupied both of them, and in some cases still made the tackle.
Yeah.
Leo.
They then
Man,
took
love that kid.
Mike Pennell and Trent McDuffie and Leo and L'Jarius Sneed, and they made Trent Williams have some problems.
Yeah, Trent Williams. I mean, he
Did
was
you guys
he
see
was
the
a good guy.
Of McDuffie? It was Sneed taking on Trent Williams.
Sneed,
Yep.
Sneed
and
took
moved
Trent
him.
Williams on and beat him on the plate, forced
Yeah.
the ball back inside and right into the tackle.
Need literally bulldoze Trent Williams, like no hesitation. Just
And-
charged at him.
Wow.
Trent McDuffie had 2 reps against him that he won that like just completely dodged him.
Mike
like I
Pennell
said,
put him on his back.
Yeah, flattened him at one point, which
Yeah.
is crazy.
In the
Shout
same
out to
play
Mike Pennell, guys.
In the
Like,
same
let's-
play that Mike Pennell put Trent Williams on his back, Mike Dana put George Kittle on his back, right next to, like, side by side almost.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mike
definitely got
Pennell-
to shout out Mike Pennell. I think we're gonna do some player shots at the end. I think, but got to give a shout out to Mike
53% of the
Pennell
snaps. 53% of the snaps.
coming
He's been
off
on
the
this team
bench,
for like a month.
coming off the couch, basically rejoined the team. And I said a couple times this year, like having Mike Pennell back, just the vibes. I mean, the vibes were up. Like he's a big vibes guy, a big locker room guy. He was obviously on the team when we beat the 49ers in Super Bowl 54. And he came back. I mean, what a day that he had. He
pulled out the time machine, made it feel like it was.
I mean, how old was
2019.
that dude? He was dominating
33?
he was just up and down the 49ers offensive line, just dominating them, getting penetration. Obviously, like I said, 53% of the snaps. Like he was.
We signed
he was a
him in
big presence.
October to the practice squad.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
He's
don't
October
worry about
24th.
training camp. Don't worry about training camp, Mike. Take a seat.
October 24th.
Yeah.
Shout out the beast.
The beast. Yeah, Big Mike. That was one of the fun points. That was one of the fun players to watch during the game. Just highlighting 69 wherever he is and seeing him work because
69's a
he
fun
was
number
working.
also, let's be honest.
69 is a great number. I mean, hey, some historical guys have played 69.
So they go down the stretch here, and we get into it, and we talked about McDuffie in one of the plays, and it's probably the best blitz you'll ever like. It's teach tape. Like
Oh,
it,
yeah.
it
Talking about the 3rd and 4 at the end of the game.
yes.
We're too far. We're going too fast. I think that's a little too far.
How are we too far?
We still have
What
the
else do we need
third
to cover
quarter.
here?
The end of the third quarter. So we got to talk about the big game-changing play. I think this is actually the play that actually kind of swung the momentum of the whole game. And I mean, it started a scoring fest. After this play, it was just only scores from here on out, as opposed to all the punts and stuff we saw. The punt by Tommy Townsend at the end of the third quarter hits the 49ers returner in the back of the leg, which crazy. You know, looking live, you think that I thought the returner just accidentally hit it and then fumbled it. And then looking at the replay, it hits the back of the guy's leg, and so it's already live. So the returner's just trying
He
to
had waved
capture
it. He had
Yeah,
waved to get
the
away
49
from it.
Yeah, he's waving
And
off.
then as soon as it went down, I thought it changed direction. And the only thing that made me positive it changed direction was the way the dude that waved it off, the returner, Ray McLeod,
Really
reacted
dived
to
for
it. And he was like, oh, that's bad. That's not good.
Yeah.
So,
So,
I saw people
People
were killing Ray for that. Niners fans and some folks, bro, no.
not
a chance.
He was just
He did
trying to.
everything he was supposed to.
Saw it happen. I mean, it wasn't even a huge.
He even
hit,
tried
but
to kind of fall on it and still couldn't get a hold of it.
He just
Yeah,
couldn't
I
get
think
there. I
one
mean,
of those kind of, I made a joke with the people I was watching with this. I went, "Yep, it's exactly where he was aiming," because it's that perfect moment where it's like it literally bounced off the back of the guy's heel while he was caught up in a block.
It was a guy who was taking on a block, basically.
Yeah.
So I mean,
So
he
it was,
kind of got driven back into
I
it.
don't even know. I'm not sure which player it was that it bounced off of. Like that's got to be the worst feeling in the world.
That's tough. Yeah.
You're like, what was that?
Yeah, and honestly, the punt itself was a little bit short for where I think.
Why it kind
more than the returner expected.
Yeah, because the return was running up.
And if that had bounced off the ground, we'd probably be talking about, that was kind of a crappy punt. But instead, it worked out where it hit the dude or hit one of the up guys, and
and I think Joe and Watson ended up getting on top of it and recovering it.
The ball is not round, kids.
Yeah.
So that was the play right there that I think really swung the momentum for the entire game.
You could feel.
Yeah.
you
could
felt
feel the
the
difference.
energy kind of, and everybody was like, "Oh man!"
Because immediately the Chiefs go
There we go.
one play. They go one play, 16 yards back the end zone to MVS for the touchdown. Just like that. It's like,
I could have caught that. Like that was.
MVS was standing in the end zone going, "I'm not gonna drop this. I'm not dropping this."
I don't even know. I don't even know what happened. Like the 49ers just didn't have a second.
They tried to double Travis. They played zone, but one of the guys tried to double on Travis. He literally sprints past MVS to Travis. By the way,
he's just wide open. Like, all right.
And I'll have to go back. We'll get into it later. I'm sure I'll look it up this week when I'm watching a game back for the 15th time. But
I'm gonna watch it back still. Yeah.
I've only watched it back once, and I didn't watch the 22, so I didn't get to see who it was. But he comes blazing past. Like he didn't. MVS might as well have been a ghost. He didn't even see MVS. He was like, "Ooh, Travis," and MVS is like,
"Where's 87? Where's 87?" Then that's the Travis Kelce effect. So
and MVS was like, "Where is? All right, I know I'm getting this ball."
Yeah. He's like, "I'm ready, Pat. Whenever you're ready." Yep.
He just stood there and waited, and Pat's like, "He is unreal open. Here you go."
He's like, "Is there something? Is something? I missed something?" Because
that was huge. There's very few people I think who had MVS first touchdown for the Chiefs and their bet slips. I bet. So that really triggered it to scoring fest.
I mean, we should probably have probably thought he would have, based on playoff performance.
I mean, you have to you think outside the box. Like, hey, it's going to be MVS. Inevitably, it is. So 49ers ended up going down 12 plays, 75 yards,
impressive drive,
scoring their own touchdown. Yeah, just a pretty meticulous drive. We had a couple mistakes. I think one of those drives, Jarius had that dumb penalty.
No, it was McDuffie. It was the.
No, that was later. That was later.
Okay.
The holding penalty, that was overtime.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Okay. But anyways, Niners go down, score a touchdown. Juwan Jennings, who ends up being the first or the second player in Super Bowl history to throw a touchdown and receive a touchdown, matching Nick Foles' accomplishment, which is pretty crazy. So they scored a touchdown. Big thing at that, though. The extra point ends up getting blocked by Leo Chenal.
/ Mike Dana / whoever, both of them.
Yeah,
I think
both got it with it officially.
I think they gave it to Leo officially, but I am almost positive there were two hands that got a piece of it.
Yeah, and I swear when I saw the replay multiple times, the hand that hit it was connected to a black man. So I don't know, but I was very convinced by it. But Leo Chenal got the credit for it, and shout out. I mean, both of them would have blocked it probably anyways to whoever, but.
That of course, we got the credit for it. And I'm sorry
but that ended up being a very big block that ended up mattering quite a lot throughout the rest of the game. Because the 49ers went up. Yeah, so the Niners only went up 3 points, obviously, after that instead of 4 points, which then triggered just a litany of field goals, a couple field goals from both sides, including Harrison Butker setting and breaking the Super Bowl record, which was set earlier in the night by Jake Moody.
The kick before, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, literally set right before that, and then Harrison Butker goes out and sits
I think that was right.
I think it was a 57-yard field goal.
Harrison's just over there like, hey, it's a nice record you got there.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I misspoke. Moody got the record in the first quarter with the 55. The one before Harrison's was a 53. So then Harrison broke it with a 57?
I think it was 57, yeah.
Which, by the way, on that 57-yard field goal, Tommy Townsend made an incredible play to help James Winchester out because the snap was way high. And he got it and behind him a little bit almost. Like it was over here a little.
I've seen those snaps turn into it's one of those things that you don't kickers and punters, all that, we don't think about them unless they don't do their job right.
Especially a guy like James Winchester who's been here forever and never really gets talked about because he never really screws up.
Yeah. Tommy he saved 3 points because here's the thing, when that happens, you have not even a full second to figure out what you're doing, right? So so normally you're catching it right here, chest level, you're putting the ball down, and it's automatic. These guys practice this 100 times a day, right? So what happens is this ball comes out and it's almost perfectly vertical above Tommy Townsend's head. So instead of being here, he comes up here, and you're like, oh, what's the big difference?
Thing.
Well, it's a timing thing.
Yeah.
And so you even see it when he comes down. He spikes it. You can see how fast he's moving. But the other thing that you're trying to figure out in that moment, in that play, is my kicker even going to be able to get this down, right? Or do I need to pull the audible, pull the ball, and try to throw it, try to do something else with it? And I've seen.
Butt kicker.
I mean, you want to talk about
trusting your guy?
Yeah. Oh yeah, trusting your guy. But examples. Tony Romo in the booth knows exactly how big
you were going to go there. Yes.
Because I mean, you think about the most iconic play in his career. Not a good one. It was a very similar situation where he caught the ball, went to place it, and the timing was off. So he took it and tried to throw it, and obviously didn't work out. But for Tommy to have that because they have that power, right? When you're the holder, right? You make that call. If the play breaks down, you've got to make that call. And there was a moment I was like, oh God.
It was a little bit of a low kick still. I mean, it
had to be because he was probably digging it out of the dirt a little bit after.
Exactly. Yes. I mean, it wasn't like I said, it wasn't a beautiful kick, but Harrison.
That's trust in each other.
And, that's 57. That was from 57, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
And the whole operation wasn't perfect.
I got the fourth brand shirt on for a reason today because both Harrison Butker and Tommy Townsend definitely deserve huge kudos for their performance.
I mean, it was such an important kick and such a clutch moment, and I just don't know again if it's one of those things that's going to get lost. But man, Tommy deserves some love for that one because we're not in it without that.
We talk about special teams being a factor in this game, even though everybody likes to hate on the special teams portions of these games. And by the way, a blocked extra point and a field goal that probably doesn't happen without an excellent special teams player are largely the difference in this football game.
Yeah.
There's no overtime touchdown if those two plays don't happen. So the block and the field goal both going that way the Chiefs needed them to is the only reason that game is in overtime.
Yeah. So that leads us to the 3rd and 4, the infamous 3rd and 4 blitz. Kyle, I know you loved this blitz. It was one of the.
You don't love football.
Yeah, maybe it might go down as the best defensive back blitz of all time. I mean, it's got to be up there.
It's perfect. He does everything right, and it's so well done that
Trent McDuffie, man.
Tony Romo was immediately like, "Oh, he had no chance. Like no chance."
Yeah.
Just the absolute perfect DB blitz.
They don't show pressure to start this play. Their alignment, they are set up essentially that it looks like they're going to just drop, rush 4, and play coverage.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as Brock looks down to the center to get the snap, Trent takes one step to his left and is ready. It's like, and I'm going. And as soon as the ball snapped, you see Brock come up and he's like, where's he? What?
He's right there all of a sudden, yeah. And that effectively killed their drive.
And they got him a few times. Brock hit some throws. He played a lot better than I anticipated him to. Spags and them gave him a ton of credit, which I'm sure Tom will talk about. Look, he was going to get you sometimes because he's got enough weaponry that somebody's going to be open once in a while, and you're not going to get there. And there were a few of those. And we talked about some of the decisions they made in the first half on the zone. But when it mattered, when they really needed one, whether it was dialing up, whatever they dialed up pressure pretty much every time they needed something, a big play. It was just who got free, whether it was Trent on like the 3rd and 4, whether it was Chris coming free on the end zone touchdown that he derailed that's coming up in a little while. Like all of these different decisions by Spags to spam that button in different manners against a quarterback that he's only played like 15 games. Brock's not played a ton of games in the NFL yet. He got hurt. He was the backup first. He came in. The kid's played above and beyond what a lot of people thought he would, and myself included. But at the end of the day, the coordinator and the guy who's
you got
now
the best defensive coordinator on the other side of the ball.
He's the only defensive coordinator with 4 rings.
Yep.
And
only defensive
one of them
only coordinator period in NFL history with 4 rings.
And one of them comes with clamping up Moss and Brady in an undefeated Patriots team.
Yeah. Is that good?
Pretty impressive coordinator.
So that blitz, the fact that McDuffie can time the eyeball, that's why he won all slot corner all pro without having an interception. That kind of behavior is why. Now, the other part is we've got to stop talking about him as a slot corner because he plays the boundary as much as he plays the slot, and he smothered Debo. The play in the end zone, the deep ball, that Purdy threw, that
absolutely tracking Debo the entire way.
You remember the 2020 Super Bowl when Emmanuel Sanders was naked, but Jimmy Garoppolo missed him?
Yeah.
So the Niners fixed the Jimmy Garoppolo problem. The Niners fixed the Jimmy Garoppolo problem. They got Brock Purdy, and that ball was on target.
Yeah.
The Chiefs fixed the secondary issue.
And
Trent McDuffie said, "I don't care if the ball's on target. It's not getting there."
Yeah. I want to say this just to give give Brock Purdy his due. I think going back and comparing those 2 Super Bowls, I definitely felt more nervous with Brock Purdy dropping back to pass than I ever did with Jimmy Garoppolo.
He was way better. He was way more on time.
I mean, he just has the ability to play outside of structure more. And
he was making some good throws for sure.
Yeah, he just sees things better, I think, than Garoppolo. Because I know that during that game, and it was a different, both very different teams at the time than what we saw this week. But
both still got, but not Brock, not nearly as much.
Yeah.
So while we're talking about that, I want to read this quote from Albert Breer because we talked about this before the show. He tweeted this out earlier today. He said, "One 49ers thing that I took away from reporting this last night. Some may question Brock Purdy, but Steve Spagnuolo and the Chiefs' defensive staff doesn't. They were blown away by how he ripped apart their zone looks. One of the coaches told me he sees Drew Brees qualities in Purdy. And so, again, that shift away from that zone was not necessarily the plan, but he was doing so, and he was picking apart the zones on some of those blitzes. They weren't getting home, so then they switched to man, which was a bold move because offensively the 49ers have a lot of weapons, but it worked out because our guys were up to the task. So, Trent McDuffie, phenomenal. L'Jarius Sneed, phenomenal. I mean, I think they held Debo and Ayuk collectively to under 100 yards, like 7 catches for 100 yards, like 99 yards or something.
They locked them down pretty hard. That duo is definitely. I mean,
they had Debo
2
and
of the
Ayuk.
best 5.
Debo and Ayuk had 6 catches combined for, it looks like, 82 yards.
Okay, so I was giving them more credit than they deserve. That is insane. Now, obviously, they fed Juwan Jennings, and he benefited from that a little bit.
Yeah, Juwan Jennings had a good night.
If you're gonna play the 49ers and you gotta, Juwan Jennings is the one you're gonna have to beat me with Juwan Jennings, then I'm gonna make you beat me with Juwan Jennings. You're gonna earn that W that way then. So
another guy who had a really good night is another wide receiver, Chris Conley, which was a little blast from the Chiefs.
He had his catch.
Right there.
He had his catch.
Chris was fired up. He was inspired. He was playing special teams. He came in. He was
excellent. Special teams. He did everything he did in Kansas City.
I was honestly happy to see Chris balling. Chris is a good guy.
He had a better revenge game or a redemption game or a whatever game than Charvarius did.
Yeah, or Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get to Nick.
Nick. But I will say the last thing about that Trent McDuffie blitz, awesome blitz, and it kind of reminded me. I don't know if you guys remember it last year. L'Jarius Sneed when we were playing Tom Brady and he adjusted his gloves pre-snap and then blitzed him and got a strip sack on Tom Brady. I think it was last year. I think it was 2022 that they hit him with it. But he adjusts his gloves and
I know the exact play. Yeah,
I know the play you're talking about. I just don't remember what
it was. It was just one of those things that's like just absolute teach tape timing. Perfect. Like it's beautiful to watch. It really is a beautiful thing to watch when there's a couple times where they had some free rushers. The Chiefs had some free rushers on the 49ers and it paid off. So
there's a little bit of discussion to be had with the improvement also, and I think we kind of maybe skipped it on accident a little bit, but the O-line from the first half to the second half, There was improvement, but also there was only really one play where either tackle had a problem, and it was on the same play, and it was the sack. Chase Young
They both got beat at the same time.
Donovan Smith basically off the drop, and Juwan was not much far behind Nick Bosa. Now, I say all that to say this. After that, other than that, no. It was an extraordinarily good game by this offensive line on almost all accounts. Creed, please God, work on the snap. Please.
Yeah, I mean Creed had a couple of plays that he really dominated some guys and he
took
had a
Fred Warner out the club.
Yep.
Yeah.
But definitely gonna have to be something we work on in the offseason. Creed, gotta get that. I mean, the
reason the game went to overtime. I'm not trying to hate on Creed at all, but that snap on the drive that leads to the final field goal that we kick after the third down play that we're because we're there now.
Should have been a touchdown.
It's probably 6 if Mahomes isn't scraping it off of his ankle because Rashee Rice is wide open.
And he had to kindly tell Rashee Rice that after the play in so many words.
We talked about the competitive conversations on the sideline. Rashee came over and told Patrick. Well, Rashee came over and told Patrick, dude, I was open, bro. Throw me the ball. And Patrick decided to this is courtesy of John Boy here. Hey, MFer, that ball hit me in my ankle.
I think he specifically said he rolled the effing ball to
my ankle. And then Rashee said, "Okay, then let's go. Let's go.
So again, hey, I mean, that's how competitors talk, you know. That's how competitors do it.
And Patrick after the game said he appreciated it, and Rashee after the game said, "No, that's how it is around here." And
I mean, Rashee wants the ball.
It goes back to our Travis Kelce conversation with Andy earlier, and it goes back to this team and Patrick and Travis were asked about it by Chris Berman and co. on ESPN afterwards, and they basically both said that's competitive. That's how we do things. That just shows how much everybody here wants to win.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pause for a second because I want to talk about Rashee Rice specifically. First of all, the comments that Pat made at the end of after the game about he goes, Rashee lives down in Texas, so he's going to see a lot of me this offseason. I was like, okay. He talked about how he thinks, Rashee Rice can be one of the better receivers in this league or one of the best receivers of this week in the league. So that vote of confidence is huge. The other thing with that, like you just said, it's that competitive. You don't, as a rookie.
No, quote EB. Quote him.
He's not a rookie anymore, but like you got to understand,
competitive.
Rashee Rice he's not dumb. He knows exactly who he's talking to. He realizes that he's talking to the best quarterback in the universe. And he knows his tone. He knows all that stuff. But that goes again back to those relationships and back to that. And you know what? You don't see a lot of guys having those conversations. There's maybe one or two other guys on this roster who could talk to Pat Mahomes that way.
Yeah.
One of them being Travis Kelce.
Yeah, it shows respect.
It's that competitive respect. That's what we'll call it.
And it's earned.
And it is earned.
She sure did earn it this entire season and in that game.
And
I mean,
he has earned it, and that relationship is growing. And they are.
He's gonna be a dog. I mean, he's gonna be a dog.
And that's, again, I mean, we could put a bow on it a little bit for his season, but like one of the things that we saw down the stretch
for rookie receptions in the playoffs, I believe.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Well, and just that trust that Mahomes is growing with him, huge. And you start to see that it's the little nuances, it's the little things, and I'm sure that's why Rice was so frustrated because he was probably expecting the ball to be there, and probably 9 times out of 10 it would.
Boom, here we go.
As for the Creed snap issue, man, it was weird because Creed is usually automatic, and I don't, it might have just been that he was hyped. And I'll just say this: once you've had the issue, it's like a mental thing, right? Because like it disrupts that process. You want it to be automatic. You want it to be like it's like almost like breathing. You don't want to have to think about it. And then the moment you have to start thinking about it, it becomes harder. So if you're a high anxiety person like me, and right now you're like, oh God, I'm breathing and counting your breaths right now. I'm sorry. But like I'm sure Creed was dealing with that mentally. Like, okay, get the ball up, get the ball up. And then it just disrupts your whole process.
There's definitely a thing it seems like it's gotten a little bit progressively worse throughout Creed's career, and this season kind of was the worst, I think, so far. Definitely more noticeable than most seasons.
It's a high pressure situation, and like I said,
it's also
more than just this
Creed.
game.
Yeah, also Creed is a phenomenal player and a very talented football player, and I can almost assure you that if he goes into the offseason making that a point of emphasis, like, hey, let's just fix the snapping. He's a professional. He's going to be good. I have a lot of trust and confidence that he'll figure that thing out. But
yeah, I'm not.
But it's tough when Mahomes has to be in a crouching stance every single snap because he just has to get that low.
I think it's an excellent point though that Tom brings up and you guys talked about where it's like that thing that disrupts your process a little bit, and it's something you have to think about. And there was another guy that dealt with something along those lines from week 1 when Chris Collinsworth painted a bullseye on his back and he didn't have any problems. And you know what? He was excellent all game long. He did his job against Nick Bosa, against chasing whoever he was asked to take care of. Both tackles did, after all the noise, all the talk, all the stuff, all year long. That offensive line did their job all night long.
They sure did. They
got way better in the second half, but other than a couple of brief things in the first half on a couple of run plays, and then most of that I think had to do with the scripted, and the Niners kind of thought they had a pretty good idea of what the first few plays were going to be and some of the stuff that happened. Like, they played really well. And it can't be said enough because those guys got killed for a lot of things, and they stepped up and played lights out like they needed to, like they were supposed to, and Juwan earned his contract.
Ironically, there were a couple times where the 49ers right tackle was, jumping just like they. And you know what? Like I said, I don't consider that. I mean, it's more about a timing thing, and if you get away with it, you get away with it. Like, that's good. Good for you.
Yeah. So, any normal person knows, like, hey, that's a thing that happens pretty much every single snap. Like, that's just a thing. You time the snap, you know, big whoop. But they really made it point of like Jawan, of course. So
he also collected the set. Jawan now has the set. He has the set of Bosa's because he mugged Joey in Jacksonville against the Chargers last year before he came to Kansas City, and he got himself Nick Bosa. Now, we're in overtime, right? We're at the point where we're ready to talk about overtime.
Yeah, so let's talk about it here. Overtime happens. Obviously, a big kind of controversial thing that kind of came out after the game. The Niners' decision in overtime. They win the toss. They go tails again, and they decide to receive the ball.
Which I didn't.
Not so. Yeah, the way that the overtime rules have been changed, and they were changed because. Not because of the Chiefs, but because the Buffalo Bills lost to the Chiefs. It didn't change when the Chiefs lost in these situations. When the Chiefs beat someone using these rules, then they had to be changed, of course. Let's not make that confused. So, the way the overtime rules work, both teams are guaranteed a full possession. And that's a full possession going into the end of overtime into the next quarter of overtime, if I'm not mistaken. So this is something that, no matter what, each team gets a full possession. You either win or lose. So the 49ers, they elect to receive, essentially letting Kansas City know exactly what they need to do on offense when they have their possession. So the 49ers get on the field. They end up scoring a field goal, which, that then tells Kansas City, hey, not enough, first of all. But definitely a questionable decision that ended up after the game, the 49ers players came out and said that they didn't even know that was the overtime rule, which is crazy that you don't know that's the overtime rule.
When Eric Armstead said he found out on the Jumbotron, and Kyle Juszczyk's like, I didn't know what that was. Like, what? Yeah.
And on the flip side of that, Drew Tranquill came out and said after the game that, and Patrick Mahomes alluded to it in the post-game interview. They every single week of the playoffs they went over the overtime rules.
They started in training camp.
Yeah, and they started in training camp. Every week of the playoffs they went over it, and they did it twice in their Super Bowl prep, which Mahomes alluded to in one of his post-game interviews. Like, I kind of got hot and tired of hearing about this in the meetings, but when it came to time, we knew what to do. So that's about being prepared and having that level of readiness that what you're doing in that situation.
Boys, we misordered the Trent McDuffie play. That blitz was in overtime on that field.
I was going to say, I thought so. Now that we're talking about it, Because that was the one
The
where I was
4th and
like,
5 field goal was after the 3rd and 5 play where they tried to go to Juwan Jennings and Trent was all up in his space.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay, that makes sense.
So real quick to the overtime thing, I don't think it's as egregious as a mistake to necessarily want to take the ball first, especially if you think it's do you want the information or do you want the power to because Shanahan explained like, hey, like we want it to be if it goes punch for punch, we get the overtime.
You're not getting the ball back.
The problem, obviously with that is you went field goal. So like it feels to me like some of that it wasn't an informed decision, because if you're going to do that, especially against when Patrick Mahomes is on the other side, that's when you need to push it and go for 6 every time.
Only time that you're taking the ball. Go ahead, Garrett.
Well, yeah, you're right, Kyle. You're about to say something that's correct. Also, the other problem with that whole thinking, though, even if the 49ers knew what they were doing and knew how overtime worked in the end, and they scored a touchdown, Chris Jones said after the game that they were going for 2 no matter what. If they score a touchdown afterward, like they're just scoring a touchdown and going for 2. So you're not getting the ball back ever. In no situation in the Chiefs' mind do the 49ers get 2 possessions in the overtime, which I think the 49ers kind of thought they might have. The
only way that you can use Kyle Shanahan's logic for why he did that is if you are telling your team, we're going Dan Campbell. I'm going for it no matter what, because we need 8 points to make sure we get a second possession in this game. Because if he
took that field goal and I was like, oh.
That's why I say you can't put the logic out that he put out post-game once you made the field goal choice. Because once you made the field goal decision, field goal range for Harrison Butker was proven already to be 57 yards in that game, not even 25 seconds, like 5 minutes before that, 10 minutes before that.
Yeah.
That means with Patrick Mahomes getting the ball at the 25-yard line, because you've been kicking it out of the end zone all friggin' night, he's got to go 35 yards,
give or take,
maybe 40 most, just to get Harrison in range to tie you, to then get to your magic scenario where you get the ball back. Also, when's the last time that it was a good idea to let Patrick Mahomes have the opportunity to call game if he wants to?
Yeah. Well, so before we hold on, because we're going to talk about that in just a moment. Because we got to go back. Like we said, that McDuffie
the whole logic makes no sense unless you're going for 8 points on that drive for San Francisco. That's the only way. So once you do that, and then you get, because by the way, the 4th and 4 play that we talked about on the 3rd and floor that was a blitz, they were in the Chiefs' red zone.
Oh yeah, I thought for sure. I was like, if they convert this, it's ball game.
But I did say the reason that he didn't, and I bet you I know why. It was, I believe, 4th and 3 or second. They went backwards at one point, or pretty close to it, or went no gain.
Yeah.
On that play, and when that happened, I was like, he may not go for it now. And as soon as he kicked the field goal, I was like, that was a mistake. You can't. You were in touchdown range. If you're in touchdown range and you're playing against Patrick Mahomes,
you don't tell him that.
Field goals do what in the playoffs? It's not just a saying from us. It's been said forever. They lose you games. You have to score touchdowns in the playoffs. And I know that there were other field goals kicked throughout the game, but when they matter most, 7 has to be the goal. And in that case, 8, because if you get 7, there's a better than real chance they're going to trust the most expensive quarterback on the planet with the ball over kicking the ball back to you and hoping it goes well.
See, and that's where we talked about this earlier. Like the most tense point for the game really was that blitz for me. That set of downs, because I thought, man, if they convert this here, it's ball game, and they didn't. And then I was calm because I was like, all right, Pat's about to do Pat's shit. And
it's Pat time right now for real.
I said, all right, here we go. Like
that's why when
that's when I was like, all right,
the last drive, I was like, no. Once the ball was in Patrick's hand at the end of the game,
there
was confidence, but it was still very stressful. So yeah, like I said, that last drive.
So we have to talk about the last drive because it was
So 13 plays, 75 yards. And it was impressive.
How many plays?
13.
Sorry, Buffalo.
Magic number.
No.
Scripted.
Taylor number, isn't it?
Scripted. Yep, it is Taylor number. Yeah.
Oh.
But yeah, like I alluded to earlier, there's the 3rd and 1 that became a 4th and 1. That was a little nerve wracking.
Also, we need to clarify the overtime rules a little bit more.
Okay.
Because there's some misconception at the end of this drive.
Yeah.
When they get down to the end of the drive, everybody's like, "Oh, why aren't they worried about the clock?" The clock doesn't matter. It's a new game.
Right.
So even if the clock expires at the end of that first quarter, because both teams had not finished their initial possession,
it was just gone to
we
second
just moved
overtime.
to the next quarter.
Yeah. So I want to talk about that for a second because I think that actually played into the Chiefs' favor a little bit. So here's, and I haven't gone back to watch this on the all 22. So
you talking about Tom and Jerry?
Well, I'm talking about that play, but I'm also talking about they're kind of going like hurry up, no huddle, and it's like everyone's going, why aren't they calling timeout? Why aren't they? And like
They don't need to.
I know, but I with how
Or
little
Niners might not have known that.
I wanted to know if maybe they were waiting for because they just seemed unprepared, and that's where it's like the understanding that rule.
Yeah,
it seemed like the Chiefs had a better idea of that situation than what the 49ers did.
Oh, without question, all of the Chiefs
to catch them with their guard down a little bit.
All of the Chiefs knew the rules. All of them.
Yeah, they weren't playing. It was a weird because their behavior on the field. They're like, "Oh, hurry up, right?" And then it's like, well, they've got timeouts. Why aren't they calling timeouts? But also, are we about to win this? Like, what's going on? If you don't know that rule, just like there was a lot of us.
I think the Niners almost had to have been thinking like they have to be calling a timeout.
Yeah, they're going to call a timeout or they're going to clock it or something.
Like, there's no way they run a play without calling a timeout.
I'm certain there were guys on that field who were not sure what was happening.
And then the Chiefs just still continued to line up, and like Kyle alluded to, Tom and Jerry happens, which is that's the play, by the way. That is the play of the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl winning play. Mecole Hardman runs the corn dog motion, which the same motion we saw score twice in the Super Bowl last year. A little bit different play and concept. This time called Tom and Jerry. That ends up being the winner, and you can see the 49ers really just weren't prepared really at all for that play, but especially they weren't even looking at Mecole basically the entire play. All their eyes were on Patrick, and Mecole motions, cuts back, and he's just wide open for a touchdown.
When I saw the whip motion to the short side of the field, as soon as I saw Mecole come in motion to the short side, I was like, oh, he's gonna.
Oh my god!
And he's put his foot in the ground, and as soon as he put his foot in the ground, I was like, he's wide open. There's not going to be anybody there.
Yeah.
And sure enough, Charvarius Ward's like, where's he going?
Yeah, my favorite part of that play is watching that play back and watching Travis Kelce on that play, because he just runs a route, and as soon as he sees Charvarius Ward is on him, he just looks at the jumbotron
and puts his hands up.
We did it. We freaking won the Super Bowl.
And Patrick's like, holy crap, he's open. Like, you can see Patrick like, whoa.
Yeah. Pat was about to just run himself, and he's like, oh, he's wide eyes open. Okay.
Well, because that's why they called it Tom and Jerry, because he had two different options.
Jerick McKinnon.
That was the whole thing was, you have Jerick McKinnon almost like going inside on a shovel pass. Nick Bosa ends up biting on him instead of biting on Mahomes.
Which we get to talk about through this drive.
Yeah, so that, of course. And then so Mahomes is wide open to then throw the pass to Mecole Hardman. And
you said your favorite play was Travis. You said your favorite part of that play was Travis's the whole Travis section of it. I think mine is the defender that's closest to Patrick, that you see his eyes in the shot when Patrick's getting ready to throw the ball, and you see him realize like,
turns his head and goes,
hell, this isn't good.
Oh,
you can see the eyes open and the realization come across that dude's face as that play is happening, and it was so good.
He's gone.
Because then and Mecole said it. He like blacked out, man. He was like, I don't know.
He just holds the ball up at the end. He's just like,
and then drops
what do I do?
What do I do? What do I do?
Dude,
what do I do with my hands?
Right. He dropped it because if he was paying attention, like he was there and he was fully with it, he'd have been holding that thing like this. Bro, that's the clincher. So we talked about Nick Bosa biting on the Jerick McKinnon portion of this play. We talked with Taylor Witt Last
I
Friday.
was like, Swift? You talked about Taylor Swift and you didn't tell me?
Pretty close.
Witt.
Pretty close. Taylor Witt. Pretty close. From It's Always Sunny in Chiefs Kingdom pod. Shout out to those guys over there. Taylor came on. We talked about the last time that the Chiefs and the Niners played one another. Nick Bosa had a really long day because Andy Reid attacked him in about 100 different ways.
Yeah.
Yep.
We saw it again this time, and especially in the section that matters most, this drive, this end of the drive. So let's do this. Patrick Mahomes was 8 for 8 for 42 yards on this drive.
That good?
He was also 27 of their rushing yards on the drive.
Yeah.
Which,
How many yards is
ones were
that?
clutch.
How many yards
I
is that?
thought he was gonna take off on that one run and just
27.
score. I thought he was
Yeah.
gonna just take it and score. I was
Yeah,
like,
I thought
oh.
that. Yeah,
Down to the 15 or down to the inside the
I
10?
didn't realize they were that far out. But like when he took off, I was like, is he just gonna run it in for a touchdown?
I
to
thought
win the
about it
Super
for a
Bowl?
second.
Oh my
I was like,
God.
Titans run again? No,
Yeah.
Titans run again.
I was like, Jesus.
But
yeah.
he had 69 of the
Busted out.
team's 75 yards he accounted for on that drive.
nice.
Very nice.
Very nice.
The runs that you were talking about on that play, both of them, one of them on 4th down and one at the Kansas City 34-yard line. That was the first set of downs for this drive of the 13-play drive.
Mm-hmm.
They ran a zone read where they
Yeah.
left Nick Bosa completely unblocked. Didn't touch him. Didn't even look at him.
Yep.
Well, I take that back. I can't say they didn't look at him because Patrick looked directly into his eyes
And
the
said,
whole way.
bye-bye.
Held the ball out and watched Nick Bosa do what Nick Bosa does. Crash on the running back way too hard and be over aggressive because he can't stay disciplined and control the edge.
Well, I'd say that was part of the early struggles. Was he was playing that way, but again, down the stretch, he fell into bad habits.
Yeah, cocky.
Bad habits. It's because what happens in crunch time and in pressure situations and in stuff when you're not thinking about what you're doing and you're just playing. Well, but when you get into the big sections, right? You're not supposed to be thinking because if you're thinking, you're losing. Well, when you stop thinking about stuff that's not traditionally in your nature and you're having to adjust to that, you go back to your old ways. So what did they do when they knew it mattered? They attacked him openly. And do you know what happened again? They put him in a blender. And do you know what really happened at the end? They took his soul. Watch the interview with him after the game. I got to give my boy Abstract credit. He tweeted it. I don't know if it was this morning or after the game. Quote, I couldn't look anyone in the eyes, not especially my teammates. I could have done more. We all could have done more.
I need to find more of that. I don't think I saw enough 49ers tears after the game. I saw a lot of Chiefs positivities, but I need to see some 49ers tears.
We talked about Andy and what he would do with Nick Bosa. And they, not just Nick Bosa, guys, they attacked their best players all night. They attacked Trent Williams. They attacked Deebo Samuel. They attacked Brandon Ayuk. They attacked Fred Warner. They got in George Kittle's face. Kyle Juszczyk did not have a good time. He had 2 catches, but most of that was early on. The 49ers, each one of the best 49ers players, all had a moment where they didn't have a good moment, or multiple. All of them.
Yeah.
Most of your Chiefs had big moments and didn't have bad ones. And
so not a fun night for the 49ers.
When it comes down to Andy, that's where Andy needs more credit because nobody but Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, the offense, and several of us who have watched this team thought they were going to pull zone reads out of their bag. But as soon as I saw the alignment and that Nick Bosa was going to be left unblocked, I was like, they're going to run off of him. They're literally going to read Nick Bosa. And every time he dove on the running back, and the first one was a 8-yard carry for a first down. The second one, where is it?
Second one was a
13 yards, and they called it a scramble, I guess. Was a 3rd and 1 at the San Francisco 32. The run where you guys talked about him for 13 yards. But they ran zone read.
They went for 13.
Okay. 19 yards to the 13. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They ran the zone read, I think 3 or 4 different rides. And it's not just a zone read. It's a zone read with an arrow or a quick out concept, whatever you want to call that little out route.
Yeah.
Not only does that route on the outside give Patrick a if Nick Bosa actually does come with me instead of getting to Pacheco, I can still dump it to Travis or whoever the receiver. There was a Rasheed receiver there. Travis was there one time. They used different guys as that out route there. But each time there was an out route there, it also functions as a lead blocker once Nick Bosa overcommitted. So once that happens, he's now out the back to run. That is why Patrick Mahomes is the leading rusher all time in the Super Bowl history at 172 yards, which, by the way, he already had before the game started because he was a yard ahead of Joe Montana, but now he's just increased that number.
That's pretty good.
What they did to Nick Bosa is what they've done to Nick Bosa just about every time they've played him, and it's been fantastic to watch. The difference this time was, besides Mitch Schwartz doing it to him, they used Jawan Taylor, and Jawan Taylor had similar success.
Yeah.
And they chipped him too. They chipped him and they beat him up. They hit him with Jet. They hit him with Travis. They hit him with Noah. They were doing everything that we've seen Andy do forever against big time defensive pass rushers, and it worked.
Oh yeah, it did.
Yep.
And yeah.
And shout out to Derek real quick because we're talking about all those other pieces. Getting that.
Yeah.
He was the one who caught the 4th and 1. That was a big conversion. Talked about everything it took to get him to play. And then also having him around for pass protection.
Yep.
Big deal for this game.
He had a good role. We'll shout out a couple players here at the end.
Mahomes,
I don't think Travis Kelce. Yeah, Mahomes out of his mind. I don't think we gave Travis Kelce enough dues. He was like 1 for 1 in the first half. And then
his second half was unheard of.
Yeah, absolutely came out firing in the second half. Just vintage Travis Kelce. They started feeding him the ball more. That last overtime drive, I think they had 2 or 3 plays to him that, I mean, he almost scored at the end there. He was driving near the end.
You can't cover him. And
he's.
I feel for the Niners because when they lost Dre Greenlaw, Oren Burks came in, and Oren Burks did not have fun the rest of the day.
Yeah,
and that hurt. But
not ideal.
You know, they took advantage of the opportunities. They took advantage of the mistakes, even after making mistakes their own. San Francisco did not capitalize off of them. The Chiefs did, and
that's true. That's true.
When you put this all together, you get to the end of it, and you finish that out with another play where it's a staple. They knew they had something they liked. They had one in the well that they definitely thought they could win with. They went to it, and it worked again. You watched. That was the culmination of the whole season, of this whole run, of all of the frustrations and all of the stuff, and you saw it with the way those guys celebrated. Watch how Patrick celebrates that. Watch how Willie Gay and Clyde celebrate. Yeah. We didn't even get to talk really about Neil Farrell or Malik Herring or
you
watch that guys.
That Clyde and Willie clip at your own risk. Keep some Kleenex nearby.
Yeah, onions were in the area. There were lots of onions.
Yeah, the celebration afterwards was awesome. We'll get into that right here. It was awesome. Obviously, Andy Reid tackling Chris Jones basically and like laying on top of him. That was pretty awesome. Like,
that was
when have
you'll ever
Andy
see
Reid do that? Yeah.
Shout out Wanye Morris for saving Miss Tammy from a Gatorade bath.
that was a hilarious clip, but very
Miss respectful
Tammy, move. Gatorade
Miss
bath.
Tammy,
hey,
move.
Everybody out the way! Come on, Tammy, get out the way! And then they hit him with the purple Gatorade. Anyone who bet that one, good on you.
Which is good. Which is smart.
There was almost no Gatorade.
It's always been purple.
There was almost no Gatorade. Yeah, I was a little sus there for a second.
Andy was trying to get away.
He did. He tried to avoid it. It didn't work. The other big celebration moment that everyone witnessed, obviously, Taylor and Travis just having a.
Taylor had a day, y'all. Taylor
sure had a day. She was only shown for like 1% of the Super Bowl broadcast, so we can't complain about it too much, guys.
Less than a full minute.
Yep.
Dude, who had Ice Spice on their bingo card with her in the booth?
Yeah, Ice Spice and Blake Lively up there with her. That was pretty
cool.
Blake,
I did. Ice Spice, I didn't have on the bingo card.
Listen, I say we start shipping Tommy Townsend and Ice Spice. I think that'd be fun. It's like,
hey man, Tommy was flexing with Taylor after the game.
Yeah,
Taylor
picture.
Taylor killed a whole wine, beer,
glass of wine, chugged it on the big screen. I mean, that was
and
awesome.
Then slammed it. Didn't just chug it, chugged it and finished it.
Boom.
Well, just to jump off, I mean, on the topic of Taylor Swift. So 2 things. One, it's got to be nice for her to be able to go to something like this. And even though she is like, she garners a lot of attention, she's not necessarily the center of attention.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, she can be a person. But also, can we talk, and this is something that I thought was really thoughtful, and one of the person I was watching with, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but the moment on the podium, Travis Kelce was up there, Pat Mahomes was up there, Brittany was up there, Clark was up there, Tammy, Andy. Who wasn't up there? Taylor Swift.
Yeah,
and
their moment.
What pointed out to me was Taylor knows that if she's up there, she's taking away from that moment for those guys.
Yeah.
And so like that was an intentional thing to not be up there.
I would agree with you. We don't know for sure if that was intentional, but I have a very good idea that was intentional.
Let me say this. If Taylor Swift had said, "Hey, I want to be up there," she would have been up there.
She probably would have been up there. Yeah,
and that's not because she's Taylor. I mean, this whole
she's known Andy longer than she's known Travis.
Yeah,
she's known Andy longer than Travis,
and they would have loved to. But it would not surprise me if
I would believe that for sure. I would almost.
They point. It was somebody that I was watching the game with. It was their significant other, and they are a little bit of a Swiftie, and they just said, I bet you this is why.
Tom makes a good point, or Tom's friend makes a good point. I like that.
Yeah, definitely shout out to Taylor for knowing her role and really just being
she's all in.
Supportive. Yeah, she's all in. It's really it's crazy to just think like, oh yeah, thanks Taylor for being a great supportive.
She showed up in all black.
Travis Kelce.
She didn't put the jacket on until after she was in the building.
That's true. Yeah, she was a part of the all black movement. The villain movement. It paid off.
We haven't even talked about yet.
Yeah, listen, I'm ready. I'm in on the Swifties. I'm ready to bow up for all the guys who are just hating on Taylor just to hate on Taylor. Listen, I'm ready. Let's do it.
It was cool to see all the celebration. All the clips of the families and the kids,
the emotions.
It's so cool. We saw it a lot last year and obviously a couple years ago in Super Bowl 54, but it's so cool to see these guys celebrate with their families and ones that really have supported them the entire way. It's really special. It's a really special thing for them to witness. It's really cool. It's definitely, it was great to see the Super Bowl speeches. We're pretty sick. Obviously, Andy Reid killed it. Travis was on one for sure, singing "Viva Las Vegas."
He said it basically all year, and they said it afterwards. They wanted this one the worst. They wanted this one. Bad.
This one meant a lot. This one meant a lot for sure. This was a big one.
Patrick alluded to it.
Yeah. Patrick alluded to his speech. Clark Hunt, dedicating it to Norma Hunt, and that one almost got me when they were talking about Lamar and Norma up there watching. It was
I'll tell you, that tribute that they did pregame, it had me. That had me bad. I was like, oh no, we can't be crying pregame.
That one
can't be Chris Jones in it pregame. I ain't playing in this.
Yeah. The message that they put out, in like the paper or whatever. Yeah, that was.
The program, I think, the Super Bowl
program. The program. It was a very special moment. The entire celebration.
Thomas, Otis Taylor, all of the Chiefs legends.
They did it for a lot of people this year. It was a good one.
But I think they did it most, and I think it's an interesting point that Patrick he didn't outright say it, but he kind of alluded to it and kind of mentioned it. That Bucs loss, that losing that back-to-back, that didn't sit well.
He said it multiple times. Like he would rather never have that feeling again than he wants to avoid that more than he wants to win the Super Bowl. Basically, like he just doesn't want to lose the Super Bowl.
And he also said that this was the best chance that they had to go back to back, which also is not a shot at that Tampa team, but is an acknowledgement of how absolutely beat to crap that Tampa team was by the time they got there. Because that whole offensive line was gone.
Yeah.
They had some injuries on defense, too. He was hurt. Everybody. It was just not a good deal. And that was a really good Tampa team with Tom Brady. Mm-hmm. So, turns out that's a good recipe sometimes when they're healthy and they're in shape. So, they talked about how important and how much and how bad they wanted this. They also talked about how this was the most satisfying one because of how hard this season was, and it goes back to the microcosm of this game being a blueprint to the microcosm of this season of the ups, the downs, the frustrations, the drops, the miscues, the penalties, the fixes, the simplifications, the understanding, the finding the holes, the making adjustments, the getting it done at the end when it matters, and making all of the plays when it came time. When they were the ones that, when you get to these games, the big players, the main guys, they have to make the plays, and we talked about it. The Niners' big players made the mistakes, and the Chiefs' big players, they made a couple mistakes, but when it mattered, they made the plays that they needed to make.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a good way to sum it up. We're gonna close this one out, but there's a lot.
We have so much for you.
There's a lot to talk about still around this game, and we have a lot more content coming for you the rest of this week. We're gonna keep going for a little bit before the off season officially hits. We're gonna keep on celebrating it and appreciating. We got the parade on Wednesday, so that'll be a whole
Happy Valentine's Day, Chiefs Kingdom.
Yeah, that'll be a whole other thing to talk about in the next episode, along with some of the legacy stuff and whatnot that we're gonna get to.
There are gonna be
You want to wrap it with this?
Born.
Which one
in
of
November.
these three of the three current Super Bowls? Let's wrap it with this. Of the three current Super Bowls, which one was the most for you satisfying? Because I know there's going to be some that first one has some special for lots of folks. So
yeah.
But I think it's interesting to ask, because we just talked about what Patrick and Travis and them said, where this one for them was the most too. So like it's an interesting question, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's still going to be hard to top 54. The first one is always the best one. I think that had the most reaction to that one. Even last year, I think I don't know. This one, it was a lot harder to get to, and the game was definitely a lot harder to get to. I don't know.
The hardest run.
Yeah, it's been the hardest run for sure, and definitely just looking at the whole season in hindsight, like it's crazy that they won it this year. Yeah, they're all up there for sure. I don't know if I could really even quantify it.
Come on.
It's crazy that we got to pick our favorite of three Super Bowls. Right? That is our favorite. How spoiled we are. I'll still give the nod to 54 in my opinion, though. Okay. Tom, what do you think?
It's a tough one. Not for the.
Although I will say, I'll one more closing thought. Definitely got a lot more intoxicated the past two ones than I did after 54. So that helps.
What happens when you're old enough to?
Yeah, they love to get here we go.
Yeah, we here at the Kingdom Says podcast do not endorse underage drinking.
Teen drinking is very bad. What's the name of that song from our childhood?
You're an adult though, celebrating Super Bowls. We're sending it, right?
I agree. 54 is hard. Like the first was like probably the most meaningful in a lot of like. I mean, it finally happened. Like that was it was huge. But I have a conflicted relationship with that one. So I didn't get to watch that one with my family. It was it was actually right before COVID, but there were a lot of things happening in my personal life at that time. And then the Eagles last year's Super Bowl, that one's probably always going to be one of my favorite because I got to watch it with my brothers and my dad, and that's just like one of those core memories that's always going to be special. So like for me personally, that's probably my favorite. This one felt like the one that like was most satisfying in terms of like we really earned every damn inch of this one. So
that's why I use the word satisfying. That's why I use the word satisfying, because it can be interpreted much like Garrett interpreted it and much like Tom just did. I would lean more towards Tom for a couple of reasons on this, because of the way I interpret the word for one, but because all of the things. First of all, this team has played more football than anybody else in the last 5 years. They've also played it better than anybody else in the last 5 years, and played a better 5-year stretch than anybody else in history, frankly. They're tied for first in every category over for a 5-year span of a dynasty run. Period.
Mm-hmm.
all of the things, all of the statements, all of the stuff that was said, and it being by far the most difficult road they've had to a championship as far as who they went through to get there and how. Yeah, this one's the most satisfying for me personally. 50, I will never forget, ever. Won't fit.
Yeah.
50 Super Bowl 54 with the first one in 50 years. I will never forget it.
Yeah. I'll say
will
like
always
50,
be a core memory.
Yeah.
But this one was the most satisfying for me to this point for all of the things said because, and it's not just outside of this fan base, y'all. There's some folks inside this fan base that were very loud about some things and now are very wrong loudly.
It's all right. Hey, listen, we don't gotta drag down the people inside the Chiefs kingdom that were a little hesitant and doubtful of this team.
It's much louder outside.
The outside noise is what we gotta really focus on. Yeah, it was definitely a special one, cementing the dynasty. Just proving
fan vengeance
so many people, proving so many people wrong. All the receipts that we're gonna have after this one, it's pretty crazy. So that's how we'll wrap it up here.
We didn't even talk about.
Yeah, there's plenty. We'll wrap it up with that. We appreciate you guys immensely for joining us this entire season. I've said it after every single episode of this playoff run.
It's been a ride, man.
It's been so crazy of a run and a ride this year, and it does feel very rewarding after everything we went to have to go through that we get a Super Bowl win at the end of this. But
thank you both.
Yeah,
this year's been crazy for all of us. This has been a ride for the team. That's the other part of the reason that this one feels a little more satisfying.
Yeah.
This year was rough for a lot of us too, and I know I'm sure probably some of you guys out there. But I know for this group, it hasn't been a picture perfect ideal run this season, and it was still a fantastic year. We still got to have a lot of fun. We've got so much more and so much more stuff coming for you. It's part of why we enjoy doing this. But one of the main reasons we enjoy doing this most, or at least I'm maybe speaking for you guys when I don't mean to, but for me anyway, is getting to do this stuff with you guys. So thank you both. Appreciate you both. Appreciate all the listeners. Thank you for riding with us all year.
Yeah, proud of you boys.
It was a long one, guys.
Season, I think we really did.
We're tired too.
We really did it. Yeah. The episodes will probably slow down a little bit going into the off season, but there's also so much to talk about.
There'll be more draft content and less week.
Later this week, there will be.
You are definitely going to want to tune in because I say some things that are probably going to end up with an explicit tag in the future. So, you're going to want to
top.
So be on the lookout for that. We got a spicy Kingdom Recon draft, and we're going to have a lot of cool draft and off-season content coming for you this year.
We're also going to have a bunch of still Super Bowl content this next couple weeks.
We're going to be back later this week.
We got lots of back, so yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be back after this after the parade on Wednesday, either Thursday or Friday. We might go live Friday, I think. We're going to try to shoot for that once again. And we just got a lot more to talk about. There's a lot more to talk about this one. It's a really fun time in Chiefs Kingdom right now. So enjoy it, Chiefs fans. We got to definitely enjoy this one. Not everyone in their lifetime gets to see a back-to-back Super Bowl winner like this. And we have a chance to three-peat now, which would be even crazier. And all the guys.
And they're already talking about it.
All the guys had that goal firmly set in their minds. So don't expect anything less next season. We will see you guys the exact same time next year, making another Super Bowl episode. It's going to be awesome. So with that, be sure to check us out at Kingdom Says Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Check out our YouTube, Kingdom Says Pod, on there. Check us out on Apple Music, Spotify, everywhere you find podcasts at. And that is it for the 2023 Super Bowl winning Chiefs season.
How about those
Chiefs?
Chiefs?
Yes, sir. So thank you all once again, and we will see you guys in the next episode of The Kingdom Says.